And welcome back to America's Hope. I'm Kelly Wright, and I'm joined now by Melissa Ortiz. She is part of the National Center of Public Policy and leads the Able Americans Project for the center. It's so good to join you today, Melissa. And how are things going for you right now?
Things are good. Able Americans is neck deep in research, so we can make sure we have all our facts right, which means I'm sitting at my desk a lot these days, but that's okay. I'll be out meeting people soon again, and I'm happy. We're getting settled into the new condo. I'm counting days till the end of the Biden administration, and things are. To quote my friend Dave Ramsey, I'm better than I deserve.
I hear some politics in there, but I know that you're
Yes.
also working on in the field of politics to help people, Americans who are disabled and dealing with the ADA, the American Disabilities Act.
Yes.
Tell me what your purpose is in doing this.
My purpose in doing this is to move to a free market, limited government perspective on disability policy. The idea that people can make the best decisions for themselves instead of the government imposing on them how it's going to be. And one of the things that we're undertaking right now is a deep dive on all the federal disability policies. And it's interesting to me how people with disabilities don't understand how the policies work, so they just believe whatever they're told. And they think that there's no way out once they are stuck on the federal dole. And if we could employ the 75, there are 61 million Americans with adults. 75% of them of who are work capable are underemployed or unemployed. And we need to stop that because it's a $2.8 billion a month drag on the economy when these people could be self-sufficient wage earning income taxpayers.
You talked about underemployed or unemployed. Why is that?
I think that people are scared that they will lose their Medicaid or their Medicare if they go back to work, and they won't lose it. The government just won't pay for it anymore. They will have to pay their own premiums. And they're really not that expensive once you are on an individual policy under Medicare, Medicaid. It's what I did. So, and people ask me, so you still pay your Medicare premium? I'm like, yes, I do. So that if I ever have to stop working, I will have that safety net in place for what I need. And there's another factor, which is workplace accommodations. A lot of employers, people that can hire, think that it's too expensive. The average workplace accommodation is $500. In some places, clearly it's going to be more expensive, in some places less expensive. And the young under 35 set and wounded warriors are coming out of college with all of the adaptive technology and everything they need to make their workspace accessible. So that takes away an excuse right there. And then for people with disabilities who become employed, they find that the accommodations that some people are willing to make don't work for them, or they find employers who say they'll make accommodations and make none at all. And that discourages them, and it gets old. It's hard.
Yeah, it sounds very hard and very challenging and daunting. And I wanted to ask you a two-pronged question based on things that you just said. One, is there discrimination out there against Americans with disability?
Yes.
And how is that implemented, or how do you see that? Is it because what you're talking about, are there some people in corporate America who are discriminating against Americans with disability and not making everything accessible for people who are underemployed or unemployed?
There are. And I think one of the biggest places, as a person who uses a wheelchair, one of the biggest places that I find discrimination is in the bathroom. There are wheelchair accessible stalls. Was a whole plan, a whole architectural guide put in place in 1990 when the ADA was passed, and it's called the ADAG, Americans with Disabilities Act Architectural Guide. And it tells you exactly how to set up a bathroom, so that somebody that's in a wheelchair can back in beside the toilet and transfer. What people do is put cabinets or changing tables or things like that in that space because they don't understand why it's there. So there needs to be an education of corporate America. There needs to be, you can't legislate empathy, but I'm a big believer that it's very helpful to put people people joke about me putting people through their paces. And prior to coming to the National Center, one of the things that I did as a freelancer is I went into companies and I actually caused people to become disabled for the day
Ah,
with a different variety of disabilities. Like I would cover their ears so they couldn't hear. They would have to wear kind of a gag so they couldn't speak clearly, or they wore mittens so they couldn't use their fingers. And some people actually put in chairs and let them roll around and find out what it was about. And once they kind of got their heads wrapped around why it was so important, the next thing, and I had purpose behind that because the next question was, tell me how to fix this so that nobody ever has to go through this. And that's where you can start to have the conversations. Conversations are no good unless they move people to action. Persuasion is no good unless it moves people to action.
and it sounds to me like you're also saying, regardless of your disability, whether it's intellectual or physical, there are things that you can strive to accomplish. And this show is called America's Hope. So being disabled does not extinguish hope,
No.
does it?
No, and hope is a choice. Hope is choosing to believe that everything in the end will work out. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy getting there. There are really hard things that people with disabilities deal with. They may not tell you about them. My boss teases me and says I'm not shy, and I just kind of lay it all out there. One reason I do that is to start conversations,
Yeah.
and to have people be the approachable person in the room, instead of being the angry person on wheels who repels people with their anger. I try to be gentle is not the right word, meek is not the right word, but I try to be approachable and let people come and ask me all kinds of things. And you might be surprised what people would ask me, but they said, I just feel safe talking to you about this. And so hope is something that you choose. Hope is really surmised in a Teddy Roosevelt quote that's really, really long. So I'll just tell you what the end of it is. And he said, the glory is in getting up every time you fall. And that just means you have to get up every time. And it's one of the hardest things that you'll ever do. But for me, a lot of my hope comes from my faith in the risen Christ and knowing that if he walked the streets with that 30-pound beam on his arms that had been beaten to pulps, and yet he still did that. He did that because he loved me. But I get up every morning, A, because I'm appreciative of the life that he's given me, but B, there are people out there counting on me. There are 61 million Americans with disabilities who are counting on me to get this policy right. My husband counts on me. My friends count on me. I count on me. I have a dachshund who's not a person that thinks she is, who counts on me. And the thing that will give you hope is knowing that you can always try again tomorrow, and knowing that there's somebody out there counting on them and you don't want to let them down.
Absolutely, absolutely, Melissa. Look, I want to take a break for a moment, and when I come back, I would like to talk to you. We've talked to you a little bit about what you do publicly. We'll get back to some of that, but I also want to know what you went through personally. We'll have more of my conversation with Melissa Ortiz in just a moment on America's Hope.